Join me now to weigh in, representing Texas's 4th Congressional District, Congressman Pat Fallon. Congressman, thank you so much for joining me. So Congressman, are we 100% sure that we're fully able to vet everyone properly that is coming into this country? Now, there's been a huge lack of transparency on exactly where everyone is going. We've also heard so many reports of many of the Afghan interpreters who were left behind. And they still haven't even given us an accurate number of who's been left behind.
No, Stephanie, thanks for having me on. And, you make a very good point, because we were sitting in a briefing about a week and a half ago where we were assured by top cabinet members, they were in the room with us, and the General Milley, that they were going to go through, all of the evacuees would go through a stringent screening process. And I took a note right then and there, because I was bound to determine, I'm going to ask this question in the Armed Services Committee in the future months. Of these people, of approximately 120,000 people that were evacuated from Afghanistan, my understanding is it's Afghan nationals, third-party nationals, and about 5,000 or so Americans. Of the Afghan evacuees, how many were returned? Because you know very well that not everybody that was evacuated from that country is and this is the key word, proven ally of the United States. Those folks we welcome in, because they risked their lives for our mission, for liberty, for freedom, and for our country. But there are plenty of folks that we don't know who they are. They need to go back.
Yeah. And people get so mad that we even have this conversation. We're not saying that those who have helped the United States shouldn't be helped. Like, they definitely should be helped, and we should keep our word in that regard. But we also still need to have a proper vetting process, and I think it's important to know who's coming in and where they're going and what communities they plan on sending more people to. But it seems like the government doesn't want to give out that information.
No, and that's the thing. Do you really trust the United States government? I mean, my fear is when I ask that question of let's just say that there's 100,000 Afghanis. We don't know the number yet because the administration is not sharing it exactly. But of those 100,000, we know that there's 5, 10, 20,000 folks that aren't proven allies of the United States. Were they sent back? My suspicion is, and my fear is, that they're going to tell us that, well, no one was sent back, because this is typical of an administration that allows 1.3 million people over the last fiscal year to slip into the country via the southern border. We don't know who they are. And by the way, Stephanie, is COVID a serious issue or not? Because we're not allowing one person to come through the Canadian border, not one, but we allow over 1 million people who we don't know, that we know aren't vaxxed, because they're coming from countries that don't have high vaccination rates, if any at all, and they don't seem to care. It's bizarre.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's like people from all over the world, too. And so, again, these are the same people that are so eager to want to lock us down and ask for vaccine passports and everything else, but they don't ask the migrants that are coming through for a vaccine passport, and they won't. What did you think of that report? The White House is saying that they are concerned about ISIS threats in Afghanistan as the Americans remain there. It seems like a pretty big threat, and we're learning more about ISIS-K, these splinter groups that have been popping up. And I was wondering, how much more dangerous is ISIS-K versus regular ISIS?
Yeah, no, they're both very dangerous. And this is the thing, that the administration splits a lot of hairs, and they spin untruths. Biden said that we left Bagram because the military told them uniformly that that was their advice. That's not true. What he said was he put on unrealistic conditions. They said, we can hold Bagram, the embassy, and Kabul airport, but we need at least 2,500 troops. He insisted on agreeing with state to draw down to 600. That's when the military said, well, we can't hold Bagram as well. And the reason I mention that in this context is there were 5,000 prisoners being held at Bagram. And not only the 2 airports would have been very handy when we're doing an evacuation, but now there's 5,000 bad guys that are out there. How many of them have joined ISIS-K? How many of them are joining the Taliban? We don't know that number. And that's the issue here, is we're less safe. And by the way, if we had kept Bagram, we would be able to have eyes and ears on the ground to have a very effective, counterterrorism mission. But we don't have any eyes and ears any longer.
Yeah, and I'm sure you saw this too. Apparently, the Afghan interpreter who had helped Biden in 2008, he actually rescued Biden and 2 other senators. He's still left behind too. And then we hear from the White House, they're like, oh, we're going to work with the Taliban to help get these Americans out, and those allies that helped us. We're gonna trust the Taliban now? Is that's our strategy?
Well, that's the scary thing. We're trying to get answers from the administration too, and this administration has been very tight-fisted. They're keeping their cards very close to the vest. not only from Republican members of Congress, but also Democratic members, and that we're a co-equal branch of government, and that is not a good way to do business. And I don't care if it would be a Republican administration or a Democratic administration. They're simply not providing us answers, which is absolutely frightening. And our national security is at stake here, because if you're not safe, then you're not free.
Yeah. Congressman, I'm sure you saw this video going viral on social media. It was of the Taliban in a military American helicopter, and there was like a man dangling from the helicopter. Everyone who was sharing it was suggesting that the man was being hung from the helicopter. It looked like that. Well, anyway, so the fact checkers like went berserk over this, and they fact checked it, and they said that the man was on a harness, but there was kind of like shady sourcing on it too. I just found it fascinating, and I got dinged on this by Media Matters, and they like went after like all the Fox hosts and Newsmax and everyone else who shared this tweet, and so they got really mad about it. I'm just wondering though, are these same people, are they going to aggressively go and fact check all the lies spread about President Trump and his administration in all the years that he was in office? And I just find it funny that, I mean, it's sad actually that they're going out of their way to do kind of like PR cleanup for the Taliban when we know that they're brutal, and we know what they're going to do to the people that remain behind who are our allies. So when we see these videos of them in our helicopter, also, by the way, our U.S. military equipment, like billions of dollars worth of equipment, and the fact that they even have a helicopter, that's also shocking too. So I just find it incredible that they would spend a lot of time. I mean, there's like dozens of articles written about this.
I wonder if those same fact checkers, Stephanie, are going to fact check what the Taliban really are. Yeah. These are the same brutal animals that would take a woman caught with books, take her to the soccer stadium, and shoot her in the head with an AK-47. They treat women like cattle. Are they going to fact check that? Are they going to fact check they're a bunch of thugs and they're drug dealers? What funded the Taliban? Bin Laden, terrorism, and drug dealing. That's who these folks are. Now they're the head of a nation state again. So they don't want to fact check that, but they want to absolutely be nitpicky about something that we're not even true. Was the man hung?
So, Congressman, let me jump in here. So, in this Reuters article, one of the news sites that debunked this story, they went on like deep in the article. It says Reuters was not definitively able to source the video, but a closer shot and photos of what appear to be the same helicopter strongly suggest that the man is alive despite the contrary claims. So they're not even really 100% sure. And so, again, if I'm wrong, I'm going to call myself out on it if I got it wrong. But it wouldn't be a surprise, again, if the Taliban was hanging somebody from an American helicopter, right?
Right. I mean, these people are the same ones that throw homosexuals off buildings. They shoot women in the head for reading. If you don't follow, I'm sure if you're not paying your taxes to the Taliban, they don't give you an audit. The audit, I think, probably involves spraying bullets into your home. This is a brutal, evil, criminal regime. And yet some of the American media that I was going to say the American media that's on the left, but I was being redundant. That's damn near all of them. Yeah, wants to be apologetic. They want to be apologists for this regime. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and again, like if I got it wrong, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I don't spread fake news, and I'm usually really careful about that. But again, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, I'm not like 100% convinced by their like little debunking over here. I'd like to see more on that. That's for sure. And two, I'm thinking of this CNN video where the reporter was out there and she's like, the Taliban, they're chanting death to America, but they seem nice. So again, they're working overtime to rebrand the Taliban, which is astounding.
Well, this is why we went back to Washington, D.C., about 40 military veterans in the GOP caucus. We went back because we had our friend Mike Gallagher from Wisconsin. I believe it was H.R. 5127. We wanted the Democrats to consider it, and we wanted to pass it. It's a very simple law. It says that we're not going to recognize the Taliban. We're not going to give them any money. We want a plan from the administration as to how to evacuate Americans that are still in Afghanistan. And we want an accounting of the $85 billion of equipment that was left behind. That's commonsensical. That's not a Republican thing to do or a Democratic thing to do. That's an American thing to do. And we were gavelled down. They wouldn't consider it. That's who is running our Congress right now.
Yeah, exactly. Really quickly, when it comes to the southern border, have we heard anything from Team Biden? I mean, are they just going to continue to allow hundreds of thousands of people to pour through every single month? And I mean, it's clearly a huge national security threat, especially with what we're dealing with now, Biden's handling of Afghanistan. Our enemies know that we have a very weak leader right now, and I'm sure they're just sitting around thinking about the bad things that they could do to us if they wanted to.
In a word, Stephanie, yes. We did research, and there's over 120 countries that are represented with illegals crossing our southern border. So they're not just coming from Mexico or Central America, they're coming from all over the world. 1.3 million in the last fiscal year. And from the onset of nation states, border security is a national security issue. So we filed an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act a couple days ago, and to simply say the following, that border security is a national security issue. All of the Republicans, all 28 of us, voted yes on that item. 5 Democrats joined us, so we won the day. But 26 Democrats said that it is not a national security issue. This is where the drug cartels, it's hard to say exactly, but most professional estimates have the drug cartels, GDP, their gross, somewhere between $15 billion and $50 billion a year. I mean, this kind of criminal organization, that's the GDP of NATO nation states like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Bulgaria, Croatia. It's in that neighborhood. They're on our southern border, pouring in fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, and that's not a national security issue?
Yeah.
That is bizarre. It's insane.
It is insane. It is insane. And you have to ask, where's the border czar? Nowhere to be found. And she's being very awfully quiet, too, about Afghanistan. So you have to wonder where she's at. Well, Congressman, we're going to leave it here. We appreciate your insight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephanie. God bless you. Take care.
Thank you.